Cheech here with Fly Fish Food, and I have a really cool stillwater fly for you. If you like to put a little bit more effort into your fly to get it to move differently, this is the one for you. My first 2 casts on this, I caught 2 fish.
That's a big brown.
All right, here you have it, the Muddy Fuzzler. This is a fly that, as you can see, has a muddler head. That's kind of the hardest part. But the buoyancy is controlled by a little foam cylinder that's shoved under that cone, and then just 2 colors of fritz under the belly. And then over the top a little zonker strip. I tie this on a size 8 2x long hook like this, Fulling Mill 1715. But this fly, I started playing with this style of fly both with a blob and with like a streamer like this. And we were curious to see how they would work in the water. And my first 2 fish, my first 2 casts caught 2 fish on these. So they work very well. They move really, really well in the water. So this is an alternative fly similar to a booby that's going to give you buoyancy, but it's going to move really differently from a booby. It's got an awesome action in the water. All right, so the thread that I'm using is 100 denier GSP. This happens to be the Nano Silk, what is this, 100 denier? What do they call this one? 6/0 Nano Silk is 100 denier. In case you didn't know, Nano Silk is gel spun polyethylene, same stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this all the way to the back. And I only use GSP because I'm gonna do the muddler head. But anyway, look at the leather on this. It's just blocky. If you find a rabbit strip that's really thick like this, if you taper that leather, it helps it a ton. So I'm just going to take my scissors. You know, most of the time you don't even have to do this. And as you can see, I like to cut a little tip. If you haven't seen, these are the Rambler scissors, the Kai something, I don't know. These are freaking maybe the sharpest scissors I've ever used. They're 61 bucks. That's the model. There's one of them that's 61 bucks. I can't remember the name. Anyway, I'm going to part the rabbit hair about like this. And if I moisten the front portion, you can see it makes a little part in the hair. Okay? So I'm just going to use a little pinch wrap. See my fingers right there? It's holding right where I want it. Pinch wrap, pull it straight down. Do another one of those. And then you can see I have a nice little band of thread. And that's really tied down, and then I'll put a few insurance wraps in front of that, and we're in there, okay? So I'm gonna fold this rabbit out of the way for a second, and we're gonna move on to our fritz. Feel free to mix and match colors. This color, for whatever reason, seemed to be very, very good the day that I tested it. And these are some of my most favorite colors for these junk stillwater flies. So we're just gonna tie in this chenille, and I'm just going to use my rotary feature to get that forward. This is 15 millimeter chenille. It's a fritz from Fulling Mill. They just call it cactus chenille, but it's very similar to just other companies' fritz. So I stopped here, and I did 2 more turns, as you saw, and I'm going to give myself about that much room to be able to put in the foam and the deer hair head. Okay. And also, we need to tie in another color chenille. So we'll get rid of that one. We're going to preen all these little haters back out of here, just like that. And now we're going to tie in this fuchsia polar, what do they call this? Yeah, this is a polar chenille, but in this fuchsia color. Let's see, I'm going to find some stem, and we'll tie that bad boy in there. Again with a pinch wrap. And on this one, don't just wrap it. Like, wrap it and pull everything to the side. And sometimes you need like 1 turn, sometimes you need 2 or 3. Just kind of eyeball it about like that. You're just kind of making it look straggly a little bit, kind of like my beard. Okay, so there we are. We're tied off. And again, I'll pull all this stuff out of the way and back. There we go. And I'm going to move maybe some of these fibers to the sides and down. You can manipulate those a little bit. But when it gets in the water, it just kind of goes everywhere anyway. So there I've got a little collar. All right, at this point, I'm going to take my rabbit strip and just pull that over the top of everything. And see what I did there? I'm going to grab, let's see, get all these out of there. And I'm just going to grab the zonker strip like this with my thumb and forefinger of my right hand. And again, I'm going to pinch it here, moisten the front section, and tie it down. You can see that if you do it this way, you don't tie down any of the fibers. That was Brigham's phone. It just rang. And that was Chance calling. Hey Brig, you want me to tell you a story about the best time to have your wife call? No chance. All right, we'll get rid of Brig. All right, so here we are. It's kind of a bulky tie-in at this point. There's going to be one other thing we're going to tie in here, and this is where we're going to put our foam cylinder in this. Okay. Now, I've chosen a 5mm cylinder. You can go 6 or 4, and also the length of the cylinder is up to you. The longer it is, the more buoyant it's going to be. So you can see you can really adjust the weight of the buoyancy of the fly by using different diameters and different lengths. But what you're going to do is you're going to want to trim that like this. Okay, a small angle, and then you're going to cut the point off of that angle. I'm going to cut a little bit more extreme. So see that? There's our extreme angle, and I'm going to cut the point off about like that. Okay, so that makes it so that I can use this angle and tie that little flat piece on, and it's just going to kind of poke up and back with very minimal tie-in. Because I angled that, it ties in very sparse, and as you can see, I can pull on that, and it's very, very durable. All right, from here, I'm just going to take my thread and move it forward, and I'm probably going to hit kind of this main tie-in section right here with a little bit of super glue. Make sure things stay right where they're supposed to. All right, so now we're building a muddler head. Now this is a size 8 fly. It's relatively small comparatively speaking. When we're talking muddlers, we're usually talking like at least a 4. So on this one, what we're going to do is I actually just have some comparadun hair or any sort of like coastal deer hair that's really fine is what you want. Okay, so I'm going to take a very healthy clump and put it in a very healthy stacker. Okay, so here we are. I don't know, we're going to take about that much, and I'll show you. There you go, about that much, and you can see it's kind of got a bunch of junk in it. Some of this is going to come out when I brush it out, so that's part of the reason why. And if you, this is how much I use this tool. I've had to replace the Velcro. I just had some little tabs right there. And I put a fat finger mushroom, or what is it? It's a marshmallow, not a mushroom, right on it, just like that. So there you go. In case you're wondering, what is that tool? It's just a fat fingered version of the Stomfo brush and comb. All right, so look at all that junk I pulled out of there. That is not going to want to spin. We'll get rid of that. Make sure that it's all out of there. One more time, maybe rotate it in your fingers a little bit. All right, now we're good, and we're gonna put it in the stacker. I like to angle my stacker down a little bit. These are really short hairs compared to how thick this stacker is. So if I angle it in there just like this, and then gently let them slide down, it's better than just putting them in vertical, because then the fibers in the middle fall all the way down, and the fibers on the side stick to the side. So once I have that, very stacky. That's the word you're going for here. And let's see, I'm going to trim this foam thing first about right there. And I'm going to want my collar to kind of just be almost that long. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take out our deer hair. Make sure that it's facing the direction we want the collar to go when we take it out of the stacker. grab it with your thumb and forefinger, and this is where we're going to place it on the hook, okay? So I like to just kind of hold it at an angle like this just to gauge how long that's going to be. And then I'm going to transfer that over to my offhand, and I'm going to do 2 full turns around this, and then maybe on the second one I'm going to start making it tight and letting it spin, okay? Now, when I flare hair, you'll always tell me don't do more than 2 wraps or 4 wraps or however many wraps. On this one, it doesn't matter as much because we've spun the deer hair around it. There aren't 2 colors, one on top, one on bottom. So as you can see, I've got a pretty nice little head going there. But we're almost crowding the eye here. So how do I get my thread to the eye? Easy. So I'm going to pack my thread back a little bit. And then I'm going to continue to wrap my thread through this head and just make little turns and then pull it tight. And then eventually I'll just be able to wrap that very tightly all the way to the hook eye. Okay? So I'm there right now. In fact, you can't even see that hook eye. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to push that back and pack it until I can feel the hook eye with my thumb and forefinger, and voila, my thread's here at the front of that head. Okay? So once I have this done, this is kind of a magical act, but you got to pull your fingers like this to get all this stuff out of your way. It's okay if you catch a few fibers because we're just going to cut them off. Oh no, I pulled too tight on that one. That tells you how strong that GSP is. I yanked down on that. All right, so get rid of my thread. And now we've got a pretty dense little deer hair head. The other thing you can do is if you want to even it out, you can even just kind of come in here and, you know, do the back and forth, twisty, and you'll be able to get your deer hair to like get exactly where you want. Sometimes on a small head like this, it's hard to distribute the hair all the way around the head. All right, so once we're there, I'm going to brush it out now just a little bit to make sure everything is going exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to come in here and brace my fingers. If you can see, I'm using my offhand, and I'm just holding onto the vise so that I have something stable to grab onto for my first little cut, right? So I want it to be about like this. So once I have that template, I'm going to just keep this angle and just rotate my vise. I'm a big fan of leaving your hook in your vise while you trim the deer hair. All right, so once we get the head about how we like it, as you can see right there, I'm all the way around the fly. Nice collar. Okay, so it's looking real good. I'm just going to make a few final adjustments, just really fine trim, but you can see you can form a nice little muddler head pretty simply. You don't need to make these super dense or anything. All they need to do is be there for a little bit of buoyancy. So anyway, you can sit here and pick around with this quite a bit. This would be a good time for Tom Rosenbauer's favorite tool, the cautery tool. But anyway, that is essentially the fly. That's the Muddy Fuzzler. You fish it like a buoyant fly. I typically am throwing this on a sinking line, like a parabolic line. And again, if you want to change the buoyancy, just use thicker foam or different lengths. Anyway, happy fishing.